Welcome to this week's Eccentric Minute, brought to you by Eccentric. This week's Eccentric Minute is one of my favorite exercises to do with the K-pulley, and that is the pull-through. Guys, once you've figured out about how far you need to walk out with the K-pulley, grab whatever attachment you're using for the pulley, walk yourself out there, and really push your hips back at the K-pulley. From there, when you hit that stretch, really punch your hips forward, keep your chest up, and try to extend your knees and your hips all the way through. And this is where one of the major benefits of using a flywheel kicks in, as it pulls you into a deeper stretch as you push your hips back into your hamstrings and your hip extensors, so that you really open it up and stretch everything out in the back. This is an exercise that I'm sure your athletes are going to love to hate, but reap awesome rewards from. I really hope you enjoyed this week's Eccentric Minute. Make sure you check them out at eccentric.com to find out everything you need about the K-box and the K-pulley. Being a strength and conditioning professional requires constant pursuit of better knowledge, better methods, and better means. But what if there was a place where strength and conditioning coaches could learn from some of the most innovative practitioners in the world, such as Jeff Moyer, Lachlan Wilmot, William Wayland, James the Thinker Smith, and Keir Wenham Flatt? Well, you could find multiple lectures from each of these top-level coaches and a few lectures and examples from yours truly as well, all in the Strength Coach Network. The Strength Coach Network is going to bring you well over 100 different lectures from some of the top practitioners in the world to be your one-stop shop for your continuing education and professional development. So hop on over to strengthcoachnetwork.com/CVASP today and get your 48-hour trial for only $1. That's strengthcoachnetwork.com/CVASPS to get your 48-hour trial for only $1. I look forward to seeing you in the Strength Coach Network. Hello, and welcome to the podcast. Today, guys, I have the absolute pleasure of being able to sit down and discuss the road to becoming a strength and conditioning coach in the National Basketball Association with Felipe Eichenberger. Guys, he's going to start right out discussing with us where he sees the role of conditioning in the NBA, how monitoring works with that, how both are tied together, and then how his time as a player has really impacted and assisted his ability to develop these workouts for the athletes. He then shares with us how, he buckets the team and separates them into groups, how this impacts the decision he makes, and what the goals of each group are. We then get into discussing the steps that he had to take to get to the league and what advice he would give to young international coaches wanting to come to the States to practice. And then we're going to finish off touching upon the importance of metrics, and what the role of these numbers are in increasing buy-in and helping the athletes understand what they're actually doing and how they're improving. This is really an awesome talk, guys. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. Let's get right to it. Coach, thank you so much for spending the time with us today.
My pleasure, man. Thank you for having me.
Hey, listen, I'm fired up about this because I think that what we've been able to start to do here is get people to bring some unique ideas and perspectives, especially of late when it comes to training. But now I'm fired up to get into an interesting story. So, for the 3/4 of a human being that don't know who you are and where you're at, let's let them know, and let's get right into the meat and potatoes of this.
Yeah, so I've been born and raised in Brazil. Came to the United States to play basketball. Been with the Nuggets for 9 years. 6 years an assistant, 3 years a head strength coach. Worked my way up here. Now kind of enjoying the ride, more responsibilities, but excited about everything. I think that I emphasize the point that I'm from Brazil because there's a lot of people out there that think there's no opportunity for anybody else, that like if you don't speak the language, if you have an accent or whatever it is, I think that's like it doesn't matter. Just like work hard, be legit, and good things gonna happen. So.
Well, and especially too, if you're someone that understands the sport, can talk the talk, walk the walk, and like we were talking before, fits the mold, fits the model, like looks the part.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, you know, strength conditioning and sports science became a big thing, professional sports. So like understanding the game, a lot of times they help you a lot with, understanding numbers, understanding um, a lot of other things. You look at numbers, you look at game load, you look at minutes. I mean, coaches a lot of times come to me and be like, "Oh, this guy's playing 30 minutes a game, so we should sit him." And I was like, "Well, let's see how he played at 30 minutes." A lot of times it's like 30 minutes he was on the court, but you look at his sprint time, you look at his load. His load is coming from a very low a very low load. So it's like, well, he's not playing those 30 minutes very effective. He'll be fine, you know. And at the same time, use that information to train the guys, using my knowledge in basketball. It's like, hey, let's do a conditioning. I mean, for basketball players, you can't put them in the treadmill. I mean, it's pretty hard. Um, so let's do a basketball specific conditioning where we're gonna get what I want to achieve with you, and then at the same time you have a ball in your hand. So
Can we dive down that rabbit hole a little bit? How did you come up with this? How are you monitoring that? And then what is the evaluation? Like how do you split that up?
I mean, so my system is what I do with the guys. I divide them in three groups, right? So I call them three different names. So it's like the starters, the stay ready, and the development guys. The starters, of course, if we talk about conditioning, for example, the starters don't need much conditioning. So they need to get stronger. They need to go through an 82 game plus playoff season. Um, a lot of things you can do just keep them healthy. That's the main goal with that group. The stay ready group that I call, there's like, in our team is like three or four, maybe five guys that's like, hey, you gotta stay ready the whole time. One guy goes down, you're next up. So, and that's the toughest group to train, just because you have to motivate them, you have to train them hard. A lot of times they can go, like 3, 5, 10 games without playing, but the 11th game he goes in and play 30 minutes. So he's prepared for that. Um, and then there's the development group, the younger guys that come in that we draft, that is there to develop, is there to watch, is there to travel with the team, is here to train, and be ready for the next season, be ready for the summer league, be ready to show us that you can play the next 2 or 3 years, and those guys have to be more patient, but at the same time they can switch groups any day. And I mean, I've seen and being around a lot of stories that players don't really take serious, being the second group, like, oh, I'm not playing, and next game or even like during a game somebody goes down with ankle injury, next guy's up, and it's like, well, are you ready now? That's where I tell the guys all the time, just stay ready, just do your thing, do your routine. So
I love that because I think that one thing, and now I'm going to be selfish for a minute because you said a word that we are really harping on the young people that we get to work with, and that is routine.
mhm.
How does that process go with you guys? And what are some ways that you guys, I mean, you could argue that you're working with one of, if not the best player on the planet right now. How do you get these people to buy into that idea of routine and then stick with it? Because I think that what coaches miss a lot is they think that like once they start going, it's the easy part, but really the hard part is like blinders, keep going, eh?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, takes time. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of education, takes a lot of trust. Um, it's education is a big piece, but know how to apply and how to translate that education to a player, it's huge. It's like if you talk about science with a player, sometimes he doesn't care. Just be simple and train and show him um, what he's supposed to be doing and why. Don't like I mean, like you can't. Sometimes you cannot spend too much time like explaining every single thing in a day or two. You got to be like over years. Like a good amount of our players now, they know why you do. They know what they're doing, why they're doing things. So I think like for the younger guys, it's more patient because they come in from college, and a lot of times, at this level, if you're here, you're very, very, very successful in college. So they think that's like they don't really should do much to play. And, 82 games is spent if you're part of a team that you play a good amount of minutes. You're going to have one game here that you play well, two games here that you play well. But do that, every single night. Do that uh, like we just had three back to backs in a row, back to back a day, back to back 2 days. After, the fourth game, like, how do you feel? How are you going to do that again? That's the most important part where, like, the younger guys miss the point. They don't stay ready enough to play for 82 games.
Which is an extremely unique situation because really, I mean, for all intents and purposes, the original minor league is only 30 something games, 40 at the most.
hmm Yeah, yeah. And, we also have the G League that we send players to develop, but the level of playing it's a little bit different. I mean, players, you see all the time players go to the G League and score 20, score 30 points, and they come here and they're not like a factor. It's just in the NBA at least, it's a very different level.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's the premier organization in the world with the best, you could argue, athletes around. I mean, it's the tip of the tip when you only have 5 players as opposed to other sports where you're having 15 to 30 that are really active.
Yes, yes, for sure.
So then let's talk a little bit more about the voyage from Brazil up to the States because I think that this is one, we talked a little bit before we got going with this that is not just unique but is one that I think that coaches may think is a little bit more intimidating or a wall that's a little bit harder to climb than it possibly may be.
Yeah, I mean, from growing up in Brazil and coming to the United States, playing basketball. I mean, my first year I came in, my English was very, very basic. Uh, and I went to a small school, and I mean, I'm fortunate enough to have people to help me for the whole time. But that grind of being a foreigner or being like from a small school, you have to grind a lot. It doesn't matter where you are. I just feel that's like I think if I look back, I like the story just because from the amount of work that I put in and where I am now, I'm very proud. I'm very proud. I see a lot of people just give up just because for whatever reason. Like I said, yeah, I have you have a thick accent, or you're from Brazil, you can't make it, or you don't know the culture. Whatever it is, I feel that's like everything is possible. So it's like that's why, like I say, I mentioned that I am from Brazil. I have a pride in my country. I still have my accent. I still don't speak perfect English, but I'm doing what I'm doing at the highest level that I wanted to do, that I'm dream of. So um,
So now looking forward at where you're at and what you're doing, how is some what are some advice that you would give to young people that want to follow in those footsteps?
Well, I mean, first of all, strength conditioning is not a it's a very young profession if you really think about it compared to any profession in the world. Actually, I was just talking with the NSCA guy. Um, I think it was like last year, strength conditioning just turned like 50 years old. The first strength coach or certified, so to speak, it's just became 50 years old. I mean, that's a really young profession if you really look at. So you have to do a lot of work now. It's a lot better than it was in the past already. But like for people coming up, I mean, that's a profession that you have to work, Sunday through Sunday. It's a non-stop profession, like if you want to work in professional sports, um, I mean, there's no days off like during the season. A lot of times, like I don't even know what day it is. You're telling me like, hey, let's do this on Thursday, and I'm like, what day is today? Um, it's a grind as any other profession, of course, but I feel like professional sports during the season is pretty hard, in the NBA. But to make it, I feel like you do have to have the best support system as you can from, like your partner to whoever you work with. Like my partner, my girl, she's a stud. Like, we have 3 kids and she supports me to the max. She's just that alone, and she knows this is my dream job. Just that alone, knowing that I'm leaving, and I mean, it's not easy leaving, but when I do, she got my back. I feel like every time that if you do want to do work in professional sports or strength conditioning, you don't have the support, it becomes tough. Um, and on top of that, on top of all the little things that you have to do in the back, have the support system, um, you have to have a good education and understanding that education, it doesn't matter if you have a PhD or anything, uh, you're like super smart guy in strength conditioning, doesn't really matter if you don't relate well with your athletes. So
And I think that that's something that we see more and more and hear more and more about is your support system and your like ability to take care of yourself, because what we really pride ourselves on a lot is the fact that we are the support system, but pouring from an empty cup is pretty tough.
yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, like, I have 3 young kids, and my wife comes in, and every single game she makes sure that she comes in. I mean, she has a full-time job. Kids have school the next day, but like she comes in. It's really important to her. It's important to, for her to bring the family to see me, and then to help me. And that's like, if you don't have that, a lot of times you might go crazy for the amount of days and amount of hours you put in this job and put in professional sports, because people think that's like you show up for a game and you go home. But like, knowing that like the game, like when the game starts, you probably be in the arena for like 6 7 hours already, just so.
Oh yeah, and then understanding that when the game ends, you're probably there for another two, and then
For
you're
sure.
back in early in the morning or getting on a flight or bouncing this place or that place or another place.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I mean, of course, it's a job that you choose, but if you don't have the passion, the support system, but if you don't love what you do in strength conditioning at a professional level, I mean, not a professional level, sports different, but in the NBA, it becomes very, very tough. It becomes, I mean, it's one thing that you have to love, just because even day offs are not day offs. Our day offs are day to get the players that don't play as much better. So it's like, we text like off day tomorrow, but next day you're gonna have 5, 6 players, or the younger guys, or the players that don't. They're in the ready group, the stay ready group that I tell you, show up at the gym to train. Um, so it's always like a Sunday through Sunday kind of thing. And if you're not ready, if don't love what you do, it becomes very, very tough.
Yeah, and and also dealing with young people who, at the point where you get them, are in their very still developmental when it comes to going from a young person to an adult for the most part, but also have been given quite a bit. The education part and connection part is so huge to make sure that A, they're doing what's best with the team, and B, they're doing what's best with themselves.
Hmm.
So would you mind sharing some of those experiences you've had in your tenure in the association? Like, what are some things that you've had some success when it comes to educational strategies with these, with the best of the best? And where are some things that you thought maybe you would be really successful with, and you were like, ooh, you know what? Maybe next time we kind of put that one in the back pocket. We don't use that one.
Yeah, I think actually, like when I was like my fifth year, so I made a joke to one of the guys, and I'm like, man, I don't think strength conditioning matter too much here. I should get a psychology degree, because it's a lot of talking. It's a lot of um, just getting the guys to feel ready. I feel like if people ask me like, "Oh, what do you do?" My job, I describe my job as like, well, I just got to make sure the guys are ready, and it's like using the science as much as you can, but there's so many factors you cannot control all of them. Um, so getting a young guy to do what you would like them to do, it takes a culture, it takes education piece, it takes years, like I mentioned before. But you also have to understand that as a strength coach, in my vision, you are different than the coaches. You are different than the GMs and everybody involved with professional sports in the NBA. So it's like I always tell them, it's like, hey, the weight room is your safe place. If you want to talk about basketball, we will. If you want to talk about your girlfriend, we will, as long as you get your work done. Music's gonna be loud. We're gonna, we're gonna enjoy your time here. You're gonna come in, you have a bad game yesterday. You're gonna come here, you're gonna work hard. You're gonna make you feel good, and then you're gonna leave here. You're gonna be like, everything's fine. You know, as a strength coach, I feel like you have to stay away a little bit from like basketball, because they get hits for, like, we have what, eight coaches, 9 coaches, assistant coaches, between player development and the head coach. So every single coach is already talking to their player about mistakes, about positioning, about all those things. So as a strength coach, I feel like you have to have a little bit different approach, where it's like, hey, we're here to work. I'm not a coach. I'm not a basketball coach. We are here to get better. We got to get here to get you stronger. If you want to talk about basketball, cool. But how can I make you better? How can I make you um, ready to, when your name is called, you're ready to go and you perform at the highest level you can.
No doubt about it, man. And I think that one thing that you mentioned there is the fun aspect. And I think that especially when you're jumping on and off planes and you're in and out of hotels to the point where I'm sure there's nights you don't even know what floor you're supposed to be on when you get back to the room.
Yeah.
What are some strategies that you've used with that with the guys? Because I'm sure that that's one that from time to time has been a struggle.
Um, I mean, the education piece of like everything. I mean, at the end of the day, it comes to being legit, being there for the guys. From like if you look at the profession, if you look at the NBA, all the teams are going to have their normal techs. All their teams are going to have two PTs, massage therapists, access to a lot of things. Um, one thing that you need them to understand and you need to make them feel is like, hey man, I'm there for you. And it's like that human touch feeling. It's like, hey, it doesn't matter if you play well, it doesn't matter if you play bad, it doesn't matter if you're having a good day, a bad day. We are there to make you better. I'm here for you. You know, um, I think that's the main thing in the NBA. The players understand pretty quickly who is going to be there for you. Doesn't matter what. Um, it's going to be some frustration. It's going to be some you know arguments here and there. Just because I mean I'm with the guys. I'm with the our team coaches and players more than I am with my family. So you imagine, if you go home and you don't see eye to eye with your wife, with your partner, imagine being with a team, imagine being with the players every single day, no breaks, that's natural. Um, so I think just like being legit and being there for the players, it's a main thing to help on everything else. Having that approach in mind is it's big in the NBA.
I love that, man. And now, when you talk about some things, when it's we're always trying to get better and show the guys that they're getting better. Are there any measurables that you guys take and anything that you do that you sit there and you say, hey, so these are the numbers we're looking at. This is what we're looking at and why, and this is how we're showing these guys that they're improving.
Yeah, so we start using the force plate to measure counter movement jump, mid typo, um, all those things, and show them numbers. And that have helped us a lot to be like, hey, here's where you were, here's where you are, and they get pretty excited about it. Another thing that you're very familiar with is the gym aware, um, where it's a amazing tool to help us out, uh, just to show the guys progress. And it's like, hey, here's what we're doing. Just go and do the exercise. Don't worry about the machine a lot of times. And go and do a bench press. Go do a deadlift for me, like a trap bar deadlift. And then we measure. Don't tell the player anything, and measure later. Say like, hey, you're gonna go as fast as you can. Train, and then show the player later, and they're like, wow, really? When they have their downtimes, and they're like, man, I don't feel like whatever it is, coach likes me, I'm not getting better, my body's not changing. You go back to the numbers and be like, hey, look at here, the gym aware, um, look at your numbers, or look at your force plate numbers. Here, how's you improving? So we use that data to show the guys a little bit how they're improving. Um, but I mean, I do show them improvement that way, but at the same time, it's I try to just be like, hey, let's train more than you train, better than you get. So I try to retest here and there, and then have a limited amount of sessions to show them. It's like, hey, you improving here, but when I do, it makes more sense than just trying to do it like every day. Be like, hey, you're improving here, you're improving here. Like how, like for the period of time, I have a period of time that's like, okay, instead of showing them every 2 days, you're gonna show it every week, every 2 weeks. And I mean, since we travel a lot, it's hard to really plan when to show or when to test the players. There's so many variables. So the strategies that we use to show the players have should be on point. But gym aware, force plate, there those things that we use the most to show the guys their
I
progress.
love that, man, and that's what we use too. And so I'm really happy to hear that. Now, have you seen anything that like connects or correlates between the two, or this is just another selfish question?
Um, Yeah, I mean, the gym aware, it's for our guys, it's huge because I'm not gonna 1RM the guys. That's like one thing that I try to use, and like the predicted 1RM is pretty cool. That's why we put the machine sometimes just don't tell the player. Just like, hey, we're gonna, and they're like, well, they know what it is. And they're like, well, do you want me to go fast or do you want me to, I was like, no, just lift the weight. And then on the back end, we get it on 1RM, and then we use that load to train the guy more specific. It's huge for us, because they're here, they're in the NBA to play basketball. So the weight room is like kind of like a secondary for them, because they're so talented and they think they can just like they're superhumans. They don't need to lift. They don't need to do all those things. But when you do have the players, from the groups that I train, or like, for example, the starters, sometimes you have 10, 15, 15 minutes or 20 minutes to train a starter just because he got to do so many other things. How you gonna use those 15 minutes effectively? And it's like, if you don't have the load, for example, how much how much is that training affecting the player? So I think the gym aware is helping us, that like, okay, so we're doing a trap bar deadlift today, and we're gonna go 60% of your max, and it's right there for us. We don't have to 1RM the guy and make the guy sore for the next day, or we don't have to max the guy, and a 7-footer pulling from the floor, pulling from a good amount of weight can strain their backs. Like, you don't want that. So um, that's been helping us a lot.
I love it, man. That's awesome stuff. And it's really, reassuring to hear that people are taking the time to make sure that they're programming the most efficient way possible to make sure that we're giving the best that we can to these athletes we get to work with.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, science there, numbers there, just knowing how to apply and when to apply, right?
No doubt about it, man. Well, Coach, let me get you out of here with this, buddy. Where can people see more of what you guys got going on and what you're doing out there in Denver?
Well, I mean, I go through social media. My username is Ike. It's my last name, Eich Bra, from Brazil. Um, I don't share as much as I would like to, just time, and there's so many other things. But email, my email as well. It's my first name dot my last name, Felipe.Eichenberger at nuggets.com. Um, and I'm try to be active as much as I can with whoever writes me, just because I feel like, from what I did, where I came from, I just try to help as many people as I can. So I receive emails like weekly about how people like asking about me, about my story, and I try to reply all of them because I know that's important for people trying to get where I am.
Well, Felipe, we'll make sure we tag those in the notes, brother. Truly appreciate your time, man. This is sensational stuff. Thank you. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, man. I mean, like I said, for everything, like all that you're doing for the industry is huge. From a strength coach network website or platform, how you want to call, to the podcast available to everyone. I mean, you're doing an incredible job there, Jay.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, brother, and we'll be in touch real soon.
Sounds good, man. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, man. Cheers. And a huge thanks to Felipe Eichenberger for spending the time with us today. Guys, just some open, honest, candid sharing from a guy really in the front lines of the association, getting it done and really sharing how it is, giving us a really, really great insight into how to manage these players, what they're doing with these guys, how programming is unique in these situations, and really how important understanding the game of basketball is. This is really fascinating and fantastic stuff. Felipe, I can't thank you enough for being so open, honest, and candid in your sharing today, guy. This was awesome. And as always, guys, if you did enjoy the talk, please share it to the social media outlet of your choice. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever it may be. As always, we are just trying to get the best information out there to all the great coaches that we can. And as always, guys, thank you for everything you do for us here at Central Virginia Sport Performance. We will be back next week with another awesome guest. We will see you then.